Welcome to Meet the Candidates. I'm Melina Fuentes. The 2015 elections for EMU Student Body President and Vice President are March 25th and 26th. Today we're going to meet all 4 teams of running mates. We'll hear about their platforms and learn where they stand on important issues on campus. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So, So today we have Amy Fry and Joe Pernicano. Amy, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Melina. I'm currently a senior here at Eastern. I'm going to be a super senior going into next year. I'm a double major in political science and anthropology. I'm also part of the pre-professional program. I'm pre-medicine. So.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's a lot of fun, keeps me very busy, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, great. And Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm a senior majoring in political science with a minor in marketing. And I'm also involved in a number of extracurricular academic organizations here on campus.
Great, that sounds awesome. Well, if you guys wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about the platform.
Well, we're primarily focused on 3 main issues: parking, obviously, technology, and safety on campus.
Okay, great. And yeah, explain a little bit more about the safety portion.
Well, safety is a fairly umbrella term for us. It could go from students feeling safe walking to their dorms at night to walking on shoveled sidewalks during the winter. It's a fairly broad term, and we'd really like to embrace all aspects of it to really protect the students, since that's very important here at Eastern.
Awesome. And how are you going to pursue those particular safety issues?
Well, working actively with DPS, with the physical plant, and different building administrators, obviously working with the dorms themselves, and even off-campus housing, working with management companies and making sure that it's a competitive market for students so that they feel safe within their properties.
And for the last year, I've worked with the Eastern Washtenaw Safety Alliance as a member of that alliance, and we've worked to specifically improve and enhance safety off campus because currently the safety on campus is very good, and we've specifically been focusing on improving safety for students who are walking from their apartments to campus.
Do you feel that the Ypsilanti community is really helping us achieve those goals?
Yes, the Ypsilanti Police Department, the Washtenaw County Sheriffs, and also the apartment complexes, the AATA, have all been instrumental in improving safety off campus for students around Eastern Michigan University.
Fantastic. What about the time management between handling all of these crazy classes and being on the government as well?
Well, I believe a good leader is able to give 110% to everything that they are involved in, and I believe Joe and I are able to do that. We're involved with numerous activities, numerous leadership positions, and we always give our best.
Nice. And you, Joe, how are you going to be able to handle all of these?
For a number of years, I've been involved in a number of student organizations on campus, mock trial, a moot court, and also the Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity. And I think the experience that I've gained from these organizations will allow me to help represent all of the students here at Eastern Michigan University.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Is there any other part of your platform that you would like to elaborate on and maybe give us a little bit more insight onto how you decided you're going to pursue these endeavors?
Definitely. Technology is a really big one. When we were collecting signatures and talking with students around campus, that was one of the biggest things that came up. From computers taking 10 minutes to boot up to not being able to find a working printer in Prey-Herald, we really want to work with IT, the administration, and the different people in charge of the buildings to really push effective technology, because students do pay this in their tuition and it doesn't seem to be reflected in the technology on campus.
Right. And this is, and you said including in the dorms as well, besides just the other, wherever the printers are and things like that.
Definitely, especially improving Wi-Fi in the dorms. That was a big complaint that came up as well. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you also said the parking, correct?
Oh, definitely parking.
Yeah, that seems to be a big issue.
It's a huge issue, and unfortunately it's a little unreasonable to assume we can throw together a new parking structure overnight, but we want to lay the appropriate foundation for future, I guess, generations of student government leaders to really push the administration and parking department to maybe make that a reality. We really want to make sure students are involved with what's happening on parking. There's a number of different committees that students can sit on, but no one really seems to know they exist. And so we really want to get students, student government, and the administration all on the same page so that everyone understands what's going on so we can push forward for what's best for the students.
Nice, great. And I'm like kind of going back a little bit to the technology portion. Do you think that maybe it would be wise for them to have like an IT person maybe within each area rather than having just a home office within Halley? Because I know, at least personally for me, when we do have issues of, I mean, as simple as running out of paper, you know, they're like, oh, we called someone because it's locked, so we have to wait until they get there, and that seems to be one of the bigger issues. And I mean, is that maybe an idea? Or?
That would be ideal. Unfortunately, it's kind of shifting around the budget and everything with the university, but I think it's entirely possible to have some sort of trained student or graduate assistant within each building who's able to handle things like printers and basic troubleshooting of electronic equipment.
Nice, okay, great. And again, going back to the safety portion, and you said that you feel that campus is well aware, and are you going to try to push out, maybe, I know that there is a safety video that has been created for campus. Do you think a lot of students have seen that?
I don't think a lot of students have seen it, and personally, up until a few days ago, I didn't know it existed. So I think really pushing that out and really utilizing student government's position within social media, their website, it's a unique position, and I think using that to inform the students about things, seminars for student safety, just basic common sense things so students can protect themselves. We're really about putting students first, and that's essential to providing for their safety.
Yeah, no. I agree, definitely. So the marketing campaign, it's basically going to be learning how to market all of these, you know, different things to the students and letting them aware and not ignore emails and things like that as well.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. Well, if there's anything else you'd like the voters to know?
Joe and I are first and foremost here for the students. We're the voice of the students, and we're here to represent everyone. So we'd love to hear any suggestions going forward.
Sure. Joe, do you have any else that you would like to say to those voters out there?
Yes. Our main goal is going to be putting students first here at Eastern Michigan University. I think it's something that has been lacking in the past, and that's something that Amy and myself will work to improve and to make sure that every student's voice on this campus is heard.
Great, that's awesome. Well, you know, we are so excited that you guys are so thoroughly involved here, and you know, could you maybe just before we go explain a little bit more about the other groups that you guys are involved with? That'd be fascinating to know about.
Well, I'm vice president of Eastern Michigan Mock Trial. It's, I guess the best way to describe it is competitive pretend lawyering.
Okay.
So we travel around the Midwest. I'm also two chairs within the Tri Sigma sorority. I'm social chair and risk management chair. I'd previously been part of student government. I actually chaired the Energy and Sustainability Commission, which is something that we would be looking forward to reenacting and pushing forward on Eastern's campus. Got to keep the green and white green. And on top of that, I did a little bit involved with Moot Court, but Joe mainly took that over for me.
So what's Moot Court?
Moot Court is appellate advocacy or Supreme Court advocacy. It's very similar to mock trial. You're given a hypothetical case and you're asked to argue it in front of judges. I'm also the president of the mock trial organization here, as well as I've served as the treasurer and risk management, and I'm currently a member of Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity. I've also sat on the Internal Affairs Commission of Student Government. I sat on the Bylaw Review Commission over the summer, and I also am currently on the Eastern Washtenaw Safety Alliance.
So what do you guys do for fun then?
Mock trial.
Mock trial.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Amy and Joe, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. If you would like to know more about Amy and Joe, this platform, go to their URL on your screen, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you, Melina.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back. Our next team of candidates is Jessica Howell and Sam Moravec. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you for having us.
So, Jessica, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a communications major. I have minors in history and management. I've lived on campus for 3 years, or I lived on campus for 3 years. In those 3 years, I was president of Best Hall Lab, which is Leadership Advisory Board. I served on Leadership Advisory Board for 2 years. Since then, I've lived off campus. This is my second year as a commuter, so I've been here 5 years now, doing a victory lap or two. What else?
No. So you're off campus now?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any roommates, pets?
Oh, I have 2 cats, and I live with my family, but Sam, what else do I talk about? I don't know. I forgot.
That's okay. Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Sam Moravec. I'm running for vice president. I'm from Dearborn, Michigan. I'm majoring in psychology and minoring in religious studies. Afterwards, I hope to get a PhD in social work and work with people of PTSD. I worked a lot in this program called Cross the Lines, which has just been disbanded, but a lot of it dealt with policies, including public schools around different areas and how to create environments for students with special needs that they need, but mostly like gender-neutral bathrooms and reflection rooms. And during Ramadan, there are a lot of schools in our district that needed to cater to that population, so they would like put on movies in the auditoriums, and that's something that we helped with. And now that it's disbanded, I kind of want to take those efforts and bring them to Eastern.
That sounds awesome. That sounds amazing. Especially yes, for the special needs. I have a nephew who's autistic, so looking for ways to schools that will help them out.
And it honestly is something that needs to be accommodated. We need to celebrate these things and accommodate them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, most definitely. Well, fantastic. So going back, you said you're a communications major. Sam told us what she wants to do afterwards. What do you want to do with your degree when you're completed?
What I want to do afterwards, I want to pursue some kind of advocacy, most likely on behalf of women, but there's also a large pull towards endangered animals for me. But I want to put my skills to help some greater cause, most likely in women and sexual assault prevention.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So the next, could you talk a little bit about your platform and what you want to pursue here?
One of the things that we want to pursue is bringing more advocacy to campus. We want there to be more sexual assault prevention and sexual assault help for victims that are on campus, as well as more advocacy for trying to avoid those things in the first place. One thing that we want to do is Define Lines Week, which right now we're talking with the Women's Resource Centers, bringing in as part of Consent Week. And what Define Lines is it's a play on the song Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke. But it's talking about those things that aren't gray. Assault is assault and consent is consent. So we would want to talk about things like affirmative consent, all the different ways that assault actually is, that coercion is a part of assault, and 50 no's and a yes is not actually a yes. So we want to address those kinds of things on campus. Another thing we would want to do is talk about how men can also be victims of sexual assault and bring more voice to those sorts of things on campus was one part of what we want to do.
And we actually got a few complaints saying that we run too much on advocacy, but we do have other platforms as well that center around technology, safety, parking, as I think everyone has, because it is a very important issue, and student orgs and what we can do for them, and the allegation process. And we have a lot of platforms, honestly, but we're running specifically on this one because I don't think this one is very common when it needs to be.
It needs to be more of a focus. But as for things like safety, one thing we want to bring to campus is this app called Companion. It's currently being used on the University of Michigan campus. A little more than half of their students use it. But what it is it's a safety app that utilizes your contacts and your GPS by you giving it those things access, and then you put into the application where you're going, and it marks out on a map your destination. And then you select a few people from your contacts to be your companions for the trip. And it sends them a text that's like, hi, Jessica used you as a companion, and she's going here. And it'll give you approximate time when I'm supposed to get there. But so then if I veer off of my trip, if I go far off course, or if it takes me longer than expected to get there, or if I just suddenly stop without pausing my route, then it will send an alert to your companions saying that that Jessica has veered off her route, or Jessica is suddenly not moving, you should check in with her. And it also has a button on it where you can directly call the police from it. Right now it's only available for Apple platforms, and there's a new one that we're working with them to roll out in the fall that would be a little more specific to Eastern's campus, where the call would be made to Eastern's DPS and that it would be available for Android apps.
Also, when someone plugs a destination in, DPS will have, hopefully, this is our plan, we'll have software that we're working with Danny Freed. He's the
One of the
operator,
creators.
one of the creators. Yeah, he's working with us to make it directly for Eastern, where when someone plugs in their destination, DPS is automatically contacted if you don't make it. So it'll send them an alert, and they can either try to call you or go straight to your destination, which we think is great because it's quick response, and it's something that will be available by the fall. Guaranteed, the 2.0 version is coming out in the fall. So we're really excited, and even if we don't win this election, that's something we still want to pursue for Eastern.
Sounds like a fantastic app.
But advertising that from the stance of being student body president and vice president would be a lot more effective, I think, for trying to get our students to use it. But that also brings us into another part of our campaign, is that we want there to be more transparency to the students, not only with what student government is doing, but also just letting students know more effectively, I suppose is a good way to say it, of the activities of student government, like when we're putting on different events and things like that. Commuters feeling off campus, I've always felt less connected to campus. And so we want to help kind of bridge that gap between the off-campus and on-campus living feeling. Where was I going with this?
Transparency.
Okay. Oh yeah, transparency. Thank you. So another part of that, though, is we think there needs to be a little more transparency between the Senate and the student body government, because really, if we get elected, we're working for the student body. We're here for them. And so I don't think it's fair for us to be very cryptic when talking to them. Is one thing that we'd also want to try and push, is more clarity to the student body so that they really know what's going on with their university.
Great. That sounds like a very effective platform. So if elected, how are you going to handle your time management?
Can I start this one?
Yes.
Sure.
I've thought about this a lot, actually, and my conclusion came to, I think students in college are the most resilient creatures on the planet. I mean, with how much tuition is and the cost of living and everything, we pretty much always have to manage our time properly. And I know, coming as a student who's a junior, I'm 24, I've been here for a while, time management starts to become almost habitual. And with that in mind, I've worked full-time jobs and gone to school for full-time. And with the program I was speaking before being disbanded because of funding, that time frame is now opened up. And though a lot of people I've talked to have said that student government is almost a part-time job, pay-wise, it's really a full-time job. And if I could handle that before, I'm pretty sure I could handle that again. And I'd be doing something I'm passionate about, and that always drives me. And that's something that I won't give up on, and I won't let go by the wayside either.
For me, it's a very similar answer. I've worked 2 jobs before while going to school and maintained my grades, maintained my classes, and my participation in them. So for me, this is something I'm very passionate about. So I'm not terribly worried about time because I'm driven to do this. I feel as though I need to serve my students better, and that's why I'm running. So it's a job, but it's also a passion. And so I don't think I'll have any trouble managing time between what I want to devote to my students and what I want to devote to my class.
And anything that you want to tell the student body out there that we haven't covered?
Well, I think a lot of people are going to question experience in these elections, which is something they should do, obviously. But one of the big things that we haven't been able to speak about is our experience. And one of that being that there's so much emphasis on the government aspect of student government that I feel like the student service aspect of it kind of falls to the side. And something that we have experience in is actual service, you know, whether it be volunteering or as a jobs. That was what we've done with our lives up to this point. And though we might not have a lot of experience in the government aspect, we were never in the Senate, you know, we were never elected before, student services is something that we do. I mean, it's something, my roommate calls me a fixer. You know, if I see a problem and I just can't help but want to fix it. And when it comes to student government, that's kind of my main goal. I just want to go in there and fix things. And I really respect the current administration that we have. But there has to be some changes, like the transparency and a more emphasis on things that represent all students and not just a small portion. You know, like fighting for women or fighting for the LGBTQA community and Muslim students and with people with religious affiliations. Like, these are all things that we have to accommodate and celebrate, and I don't think that there's much agency going on with that currently.
Yeah, I don't have very much experience in the bureaucracy of student government. I've not been elected as a senator or anything like that before, but I do have experience in helping students reach their student services and helping provide those student services. I was an RA for a year when I was living on campus. I've been an OM. So planning events for my students, helping cater what I need to do for my students' needs is something that I do have experience in, and it's something I am passionate about. So keeping the students at heart, I think, is a very big part of the job, and I think that's something we both have a lot of experience in. And I think that's going to come out in how we want to help orgs and how we want to help our victims on campus, on how we want to help prevent having more victims on campus. So I think our background in providing student services definitely makes up for the fact that we've never been on student government senate before or something like that.
So one last question to just end on a high note here. What do you guys do for fun?
I'm a clown.
Really?
Yeah. When I was 17, I couldn't really find a job in my hometown, so I created one and became a clown. So what I like to do for fun: twist balloons, magic tricks, juggling. I think I love talking about it too, because I do think it's kind of unique. And word of advice for everyone out there: twisting balloons can be a lot of fun and very stress-free. So.
For me, I'm kind of outdoorsy. I spend a lot of time with my family too. I like to go hang out with my younger brothers. I go camping a lot. Walking around outside without shoes, greatest fun ever. Really weird, but so much fun. Don't know why, it just is. Climb a tree, it's fantastic. But for me, it's pretty simple. I paint, I hang out with my brothers, my dog, my cats, and go camping, hiking. It's awesome.
Which reminds me, we do have a lobby table coming up where if you ask us a question, we will make you a balloon animal.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
she says, we make you a balloon animal, it's Sam makes you balloon animals. Jessica, my balloon animals look like a stick. I can make a stick.
Snake.
No, snakes are actually
I
complicated.
told her she can't make a snake.
I can make a stick.
I took a clown, clown college. I took it for one day.
Really?
I was done.
My parents wouldn't let me do it. I was so upset, but.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I can still remember doing is the witch's broom. Oh, with the string. Right. That's about the only thing. Yeah, it's just
we should
string.
talk. I also do lessons.
Oh, hey, well there you go. Add that to your day that you have your event.
Yeah.
Little quick clown lessons.
Yep.
But Okay, well, I want to just thank you guys so much for coming and joining us here on the show today, and good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you guys would like to know a little bit more about Jessica and Sam's platform, check out their URL on the screen, and we will be back in just a moment. Welcome back. Our next pair of candidates is Sabrina Ford and Gabriel Stephen. Thank you both for coming on our show today.
Thank you for having us.
So, Sabrina, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a junior here at Eastern, and I'm studying marketing and political science. I started here back in 2009 and took about 2.5 years off, moved overseas for a little while. I taught underprivileged children in South Korea. Gabe actually did the same program. And then I moved to Thailand and did marketing and development, and then I decided to move back to Michigan to actually complete my education. And while I'm here, I decided to try and affect some change. I've seen a lot of things that have changed at Eastern since 2009, a lot of things that have stayed the same, a lot of things that have gotten better, and a lot of things that have gotten worse. So I'd like to use my experience with the real world and my experience having been on campus for so long to try and affect some great change.
And Gabriel, what about you?
Well, I guess a little bit about me. I came here a little bit earlier than most people who enroll into university. Instead of finishing my last 2 years at high school, I joined the ECA program, which is the Early College Alliance here at Eastern Michigan. And that allowed me to come here a little bit sooner and get involved with school. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do for the longest, but I noticed I enjoyed interacting with others. And so I began taking these communication classes, and that's where I am now in my last semester graduating. With that, I have learned how to connect and outreach through various programs I've been involved with on campus, such as working in the Academic Programs Abroad office, which where I went out and mentored students who wanted to go and travel abroad and let them know about the experiences they could have themselves, such as the one Sabrina mentioned about us going and teaching in South Korea, which is a great opportunity. Any traveling is really an experience. And with that, I learned how to learn languages, how to connect with others without language and pass those barriers. And I feel my world experience really helps me, help Sabrina, help everyone with our goals we're trying to reach.
Would you elaborate a little bit more on this study abroad program? Because it sounds fascinating.
The program that we were both in is called the TALK program, Teach and Learn in Korea, and it's a culture exchange program. So you go over there, and it's a scholarship with the South Korean government, actually. So you apply directly to their National Office of Education, and you'll get assigned to a school in a rural town in South Korea. It's basically because there is a large gap between children from well-off families and children from families that may not necessarily have a lot of financial resources. So it's kind of a part of their culture where the students actually go and learn English after school every day. And the students who can't afford it don't get that privilege. They don't get that opportunity. And thus, when they're applying to colleges and applying to jobs in the future, they're going to be at a disadvantage because they can't compete with other students who have gotten more educational opportunities just because of their family's financial situation. And this is the Korean government's way of trying to offset that imbalance.
Mm-hmm. Since English is such a demanding, increasing world language, over in the Far East, they are really wanting to expand and bring back culture as well. So as we went out as ambassadors for this program, we also brought a lot of, that world experience back with us. Now when we see other Koreans or we go out to eat, we have an understanding of what, goes into kind of cultural norms.
That sounds amazing. And that was a program offered here through EMU?
It's kind of offered through EMU. There's a partnership with a professor here at EMU. and she helps guide us through the application process. And there's actually a course that you can take here before you go, so that you're a little more prepared to teach EFL, English as a foreign language, and that you're more prepared to handle a classroom. So,
And if you want more information, you can contact Dr. Myung-Soo Ko. She's actually who leads the program.
Well, why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about your platform? What do you want us to know?
Well, we're actually focused on 3 different things. First would be integrating our campus community with the Ypsilanti community in a few innovative ways. The second would be restructuring advising so that students are graduating faster and with less debt. And then the third would be supporting our student organizations more. Last year we had over $30,000 left over in our student government budget, and that money basically went into an account that is for emergencies that student government may or may not have in the future. But that's not what the $250,000 that student government is awarded to allocate every year is. Therefore, one of the main functions of student government is actually allocating funds. And if you have $30,000 left over, that's $30,000 worth of activities, worth of speakers that you could have, worth of events that different organizations can host on campus. Basically $30,000 worth of educational opportunities that didn't happen. And we'd like to change that by reaching out to student organizations more, letting them know that 1, student government is there as a financial resource. 2, student government is there to help you through the entire process of applying for these funds, because there is a lot of paperwork associated with it. And we do understand that sometimes having a large pile of paperwork that you have to fill out can be a little bit intimidating, and we want to let them know that we're here to help you through each step of the process. We'd also like to create more of a roundtable discussion, because we do have SOLAR, which happens multiple times throughout each semester, where student organizations are required to attend. And when they're attending these SOLAR events, they basically are learning about planning, events, bringing in hosts, and just a lot of different management aspects of student organizations. But they can be quite repetitive. If you have to go every year and you're talking on the same subject matter every year or every semester, you're going to tune out and you're going to zone out, and you may not actually get any new information that you need. It'll basically be a waste of time. And we want to create more of a roundtable discussion so that student organizations can come in and kind of mentor each other and become more interdependent with each other, utilizing each other's resources, whether it be knowledge or actual human labor, or just
A network of, people available who understand what they really need, whether it be somebody who understands this company offers a great deal to students for business cards or for t-shirts for their organization. Simple things like that, but just a way to build that between the student government body and the student body.
Well, major concern here is safety. Well, what are your guys' thoughts on safety here on campus?
I feel like Eastern has made great strides as far as safety goes here on campus. Gabriel and I both grew up around the community. Gabriel's actually from Ypsilanti. I'm from Belleville, which is one exit away pretty much. So we're quite familiar with some things that have happened on campus in the past that posed major security threats. And since those things have happened, our campus has really stepped up. Our administration has really stepped up, and I applaud them for that. They've implemented the CS program, which is a great program, but sometimes there are some difficulties in contacting CS. Let's say you don't have a cell phone or your cell phone is dead. There are some difficulties with contacting CS, so we'd like to look into possibly finding some alternative ways for students to contact CS throughout campus. The Department of Safety, Public Safety on campus, definitely they actually work with RAs and go in and meet with each individual group of RAs to explain to them some risk factors that occur on campus and some things to inform their residents of about the campus community and safety on campus. There's the Rape the RAD program, Rape Aggression Defense Program, where they basically teach you how to defend yourself if you're attacked by a potential rapist. There are tons of different programs on campus that are great, but I feel like there could be more of them, and they could be advertised more. I remember my freshman year, the RAD class was really, really popular, and most of the girls in our dormitory actually attended this RAD class. It was a great community thing that we did together, and it was a huge group of us, so it was easy to get motivated to walk there and actually attend the classes. Lots of people knew about it. But this year...
Was this the class offered by Officer Dorsey?
Yeah, Officer Dorsey.
Oh, okay.
And this year, I've actually walked past it a few times, and the attendance is much lower than it used to be. They used to have it actually in the gymnasium, and it would be a full room of people with us trying to spread out and find extra room for people to fit in. And now they're doing it on the 3rd floor in the Student Center. So attendance has dropped. And we'd like to make sure that that program gets promoted more, because there are lots of safety measures in place on campus, but we would like to make sure that students know that they exist. Because just because there's a resource, if no one's utilizing that resource, it's a waste.
Right.
Well, if elected, how would you guys manage your time?
Managing time, I guess the best way is when your time is spent doing the things that you actually want to do. So as campaigning has become one of those things we really want to do, because it's that way to get us to where we want to be, to help others. So
when you're basically doing something you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. School, certain classes that you have to take can feel like work. But when you have a passion for something, it becomes more of a hobby. And a hobby doesn't necessarily tire you out in the same way that work does. So as long as we're basically maintaining our classes, currently I'm taking 18 credit hours while campaigning, and last semester I was working full-time and in school full-time, and planning to campaign. So I feel like time management is not necessarily a major issue. I feel like resource management within student government would be one of the major issues we need to make sure that we are focusing on, such as making sure that there's not a $30,000 surplus where students are missing out on funding opportunities. So I feel like managing our time wouldn't necessarily be the greatest concern of ours, because it would be more of an enjoyable activity to make sure that we are seeing positive change affected in our campus community.
Any other information you want our voters to know out there that we might not have covered that you really want to emphasize?
Maybe elaborate a little bit more on our other platforms.
Sure.
We talked about how we want to support student organizations more, but we didn't talk very much about restructuring advising. If you want to go into that a little bit.
Okay. So within the advising department here at Eastern, our 4-year graduation rate is at 12% currently, and our 6-year is at 61%. 38%, I'm sorry. Our actual state average is 61%. So, I mean, when you take those numbers and you compare them, it's like Michigan, Eastern Michigan is kind of falling a little bit lower on the scale. And we think maybe if we had advisors who weren't for your general education, for your undergraduate and your minor, if you had maybe one dedicated individual or just a way to streamline it all to where you actually want to be, then you won't be taking these classes you don't need, the credits you were wasting because you didn't really need them, or things, maybe you could have had credits that were counting for both your your general education and your major a little bit more efficiently.
So having someone that you're more comfortable with, someone who knows about you and your educational goals and can work with you, and just not an advisor for each student, but an advisor for a particular group of students. And many other public universities in the state do that. And if you even go down the street to Washtenaw Community College, they have a very similar program. Eastern has changed. Actually, this upcoming year they're changing, where incoming freshmen are required to meet with an advisor before they actually are able to register online for their courses. What we'd like to do is have that program set up for all of our students. Maybe not every semester students have to go in.
I do want to warn you, we do have about a minute left.
Okay, maybe not every semester, but about once a year going in and making sure that they're on track to graduate. And then also about integrating our campus community with the Ypsilanti community in a few innovative ways, such as utilizing the parking meters in downtown Ypsilanti that sit empty day in and day out, and letting students use those and then catch the College of Business shuttle to get pretty much anywhere on campus that they want to within 10 minutes.
And I guess the biggest one, I know we only touched on it a little bit, but we really are here for the student organizations, because those are the biggest, places students turn to when they want to be involved on campus, So we've been reaching out to many of them, and many of them are really supportive on the ideas that we're trying to present.
So our campaign slogan is, if we win, you win.
That sounds amazing. That's an awesome campaign slogan. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you'd like to know about Sabrina or Gabrielle's platform, visit the URL on the screen. And I'm sorry, it's Gabrielle. I just said Gabrielle. And we'll be right back. Next, we have the team of Stephen Cole and Angela Martin. Thank you both for coming today.
Thank you.
So, sorry, Stephen.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a junior political science major. My minor is in general business. I'm a 2012 graduate of Saline High School just down the road here. I commuted for my first 2 years of college. I live in just an off-campus apartment for this one. So since I've been at Eastern, I've been involved in mostly political science organizations, and then also involved in a fraternity on campus as well. Been involved in student government for 2 years, serving on the executive board for both years, and as student body vice president for the last year.
And Angela?
So, like Stephen, I am also a junior, and I commuted as well. I currently commute, though, so I'm still commuting from home. I'm from Canton, Michigan. Graduated from not Saline. I'm getting high schools mixed up already. From Salem High School, so the PCEP, Plymouth Educational Park area. I am the president of the National Society of Collegiate Scholars, as well as Emerald Flutes. I'm an international affairs major with 3 minors, so that does officially make me crazy, in international business, music performance, and French language. So outside of that, I am the director of media relations for student government. I've been doing that for the past year, and that was where sort of got my feet wet in government here, but I also did it in high school as well, and I am an Honors College Research Fellow, so kind of all over the place.
Fantastic. Well, why don't we go into a little bit more on talking about your platform?
Yeah, of course. So when I approached Angela with the idea to run, we talked about a few issues we'd like to see, and we've kind of developed those with our campaign staff and also talking between ourselves of what we'd really like to see, what we perceive to be some of the issues at Eastern. So I think we can improve the quality of student life here through 5 main ways. The thing I'm frankly most excited about is what's known as a tuition rebate incentive, which basically would financially reward students for their success in the community here at Eastern, but also for being on pace to graduate in a certain amount of time with a certain grade requirement. Second is a conversation about public safety. I think that's always important for any candidate in student government to talk about making sure the students not only feel safe on campus, but also in the community just off campus as well. And lastly is, for me, before Angela covers the other 2 at least, is talking about improving transit for students without increasing what students pay. I mean, I think the general consensus among the student body is that we pay enough to go to school. I don't think I can find many people that want to pay more voluntarily. So we want to look at ways where we can improve the transit situation, which admittedly can be improved in a few main ways, without having students pay more.
So building off of what Stephen said about the transit issue, also looking to improve parking on campus without increasing student costs. So that's looking at things such as repaving the parking that we have as opposed to building a new structure, which is going to cost between $8 and $10 million. And Stephen sits on the university budget committee, and he can tell me, and I believe him, that the university won't be paying for that parking structure. That'll be coming to students. So we don't want to see increased costs for students. So looking to repave, working with landscaping and the grounds committee to make sure that when we have snow, because it's Michigan and it snows a lot, making sure that the parking spaces are actually clear so that there's not snow in the parking spaces. And also working with not only DPS and parking, but also with groundskeeping and technology to develop a parking app so that students not only know what parking lots are available, but also know that, hey, there's a space right here in the parking lot. They're not having to look for parking spaces, that they already know exactly where they need to go before they even leave their house. The other two areas that we're looking at are renovations and technology. So I'm going to talk about renovations first. I'm a musician, and I don't know if you've been in the Alexander Music Building, but it's sort of falling apart. And that's not something that's really good for musicians, especially there are 4 levels in Alex. There's a halfway level that's full of just these rooms, and you can sort of hear a shrieking maybe coming from some of the rooms. That may or may not be me. I play the piccolo, so maybe. But looking at soundproofing the practice room so that only the musicians in the rooms are the ones having to hear the wonderful noises that we can make with our voices or our instruments. Also working to get keycard access into that building so that musicians aren't playing in the dorms late at night or having to lug instruments. Well, I'm short, so me and a tuba don't look so well together, and it means that I'm not having to lug a tuba or lug a cello or a bass or anything like that to an off-campus apartment or back to my house or into my dorm room and then keeping everybody up at night. In addition to that, Stephen sits on the rec renovation committee for the university, and he won't tell me what the plans are, despite me asking, but the rec has some amazing renovations in place. So looking at making sure that those go through, and it's estimated that equipment's going to be put in as early as the fall, which is something that we're very excited about and want to see continue and work upon that even further. The other area is technology. Technology is great when it works. And oftentimes we run into the problem of it not working on campus. So the Wi-Fi was recently upgraded, and since then Google Chrome, at least on my computer, feels as if it's being attacked by about 1,000 different Trojan horse viruses all at one time. We want to work with technology to make sure that that's improved, that the Wi-Fi access in the towers and in Pray Herald, where there are several dead spots, is fixed. And beyond that, that when you use the technology, it's secure, it's reliable, and it's going to actually work. Also, looking to add print kiosks into buildings that have high traffic but maybe don't have print kiosks. And one of the things that I'm excited about, but I print a lot of papers, is putting an IT help button in so that either IT or a help button of some kind are in each of our buildings that have a print kiosk. So when it runs out of toner, when it runs out of ink, when it runs out of paper, when it runs out of whatever printer can possibly run out of, you're not waiting 4 to 5 hours to make sure that that gets in and then you're late for class because your term paper is now not turned in on time. There's someone right there, they can put it in, they can get you assistance immediately.
So you mentioned safety as one of your platform topics. Why don't you discuss that a little bit more?
Yeah, so statistically speaking, at least, Eastern's campus itself, the boundaries of campus, provide a safe environment for students. But I think in the areas just around campus, we have to increase focus, I should say, of how students are feeling walking to and from their apartments or being out in the community, going to restaurants, making sure that IPSI and Eastern are connected and not Eastern students just stick to campus and then go home at the end of the day. So a few different things to that. I mean, first is making sure that there's a clear and open dialogue with DPS. So one thing that I'm very interested in is a DPS advisory board. How I envision that would be that different students from different constituencies, so to speak, would sit down and basically advise DPS, maybe biweekly or monthly meetings with the Director of Public Safety here, Bob Hayes, and talking to him and making sure that DPS knows where the student concerns are, any questions or myths that may be about enforcement. So DPS is here to serve the students, making sure that they can hear the feedback from students about what the potential issues are so they can more effectively do their jobs. I'm a big fan of an open door policy, but if students don't feel like they can approach DPS, I think a little bit more may have to be done. And I know DPS is more than willing to have that conversation with students. It's something they're interested in, so I think that would be an important first step. Also, there's the idea, of a safety app on your phone. So you're familiar with the blue towers on campus that you could push in case of emergency. So there's a smartphone app that you could have that would basically alert DPS of your location. Now, it's not a fail-safe. For instance, if you're in the towers, it doesn't say what floor you're on. It would just say sort of a geographical location. But it's an important, again, step into the right direction where if you're just off campus or in the community, if something happens, you're not right by one of those blue towers and you have your phone on you, you could just push that button and maybe send a report. And then the last thing in regards to safety is making sure that DPS has text capabilities. I think this is really important for maybe sensitive situations. If you can't pick up the phone and call 911 or even call DPS, if you have the ability to send a text, if you're in a truly sensitive situation, that could be the difference between somebody's life or death. So I think that's something definitely that we would like to look toward as well.
And do you believe that bringing in the Ypsilanti community might help along with those outer borders of our campus?
Yeah, so the Eastern Washtenaw Safety Alliance has, in the last year, really had a pretty aggressive effort in policing the area. Now the Washtenaw County Sheriff has provided assistance, Ypsilanti, I should say, has provided assistance, as well as Eastern in hiring more officers and having more of a community-based policing approach. I think the results have been good from at least my anecdotal feedback. I've seen a lot more officers in the area. I can tell that the students themselves report that they feel safer in the community as well. So yeah, I think engaging the Ypsilanti community and making it more of Eastern and Ypsilanti problem as opposed to an Eastern problem versus a separate Ypsilanti problem is definitely a step in the right direction as well.
You mentioned also tuition reimbursement or incentive for those who graduate. You want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so this is something that the current president, Desmond Miller, and I actually talked to the university administration about a little bit toward the end of last semester, and the talks have been kind of increasing this semester toward the beginning back in January and February. Basically the premise of this plan would be that for students that are excelling academically and are on pace to graduate in a certain time frame, they would get something back, but ideally between their junior and senior year. We're not sure exactly what form that would manifest, whether it be sort of like a Grand Valley State University model, where I think they give $1,000 back between your junior and senior year if you're at the 75% threshold or on pace to graduate in 4 years with a grade requirement, or if we look at maybe if we can find a way to give it back to students' academic interest, maybe providing $1,000 if they just want the lump sum money back, or providing a heavily subsidized or free study abroad trip so it can go back towards an academic focus as well. The evidence suggests that it helps with retention and graduation rates, which is good for the university. Grand Valley's graduation rate more than doubled in 10 years after they installed that plan, so it's something that I think would benefit students here.
So, if elected, how would you guys manage your time here?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, as we both explained, we're involved and have been involved for years in many different organizations. So basically, I think that Angela and I have worked it out where we're kind of used to managing a lot of things at once. This year, as student body vice president, I was heavily involved in other areas of campus as well. And I found that you just have to really make sure you schedule your time in your calendar and make sure you stick to that schedule. Or if you get behind a little bit, that's okay, but you have to really stick to a planned schedule. So it's possible to manage maybe 1 or 2 orgs and class and being in student government, so long as you have good pre-planning. And Angela and I are all about making sure we plan out our work, make sure what we need, we have listed what we need to do in the week, and then we stick to that plan.
We're also very conscious of those plans, so you will frequently see us with phone calendars, and anytime someone starts to talk to us about any date or time, we're like, wait, no, we need a calendar. So we're very conscious of that. We also divide the work pretty evenly, so there will be things, especially in this process where we've spoken to a lot of student organizations, where Stephen and I communicate a lot. It's a running joke between us how many times a day we communicate now. But looking at who needs to be where, when, and who is the best person to go to that different location. So it's understanding that not everything that we're going to be doing in student government next year necessarily requires the student body president to be there. Sometimes the vice president can go and do maybe an equal, of course an equal, or even a better job because of the audience at that time. So it's understanding that, yes, we've done this before. Yes, we've been extremely busy and been able to be successful while being busy. We're both honors college students, and I think that being able to maintain that serves as a display, at least, of our ability to juggle multiple things, including our academic work. But it's also taking advantage of the technology that is working most of the time and being able to schedule ourselves effectively.
Well, any other comments or anything that you want your voters to know that we haven't touched upon?
Well, yeah, in regards to that, I would say that Angela and I really want to stress that we are uniquely qualified candidates in this election. Of course, there are several good candidates that all bring good ideas to the table, but specifically, as I mentioned before, I've served in student government for 2 years on the executive board, and with that comes a lot of experience. And so, especially in the last year as student body vice president, I've been at the table with meetings, for the meetings with the Board of Regents, the provost, the president, associate vice presidents, generally upper level administration, as well as the faculty, and hearing the students' concerns as well. So not only do I have an idea of what I think could better the student body's experience here at Eastern, what I perceive to be maybe what lacks in the experience, but I also can take their concerns and sort of provide a solution to that quickly and effectively with the administration, with those existing avenues that I've built and maintained in the last year or two.
Anything else you want to say?
One of the things that I love that what Stephen talks about is that our experience, and that really is something that we're relying heavily upon, is that we do have a lot of existing relationships, but we also have connections with the students that maybe are unique. So in this election, we're expecting to see a much higher turnout of voters from music and from arts and dance, which is something that's a little bit unique than in past elections because I've got a connection to those students. We're connected into Greek life through Stephen and his fraternity. We're connected into honor societies in the Honors College. So we really think that in addition to our experience, we do represent a large population of the student body. Obviously, we can't embody every aspect of the students, but we hope that they would understand that while we might not embody every aspect about them, we do represent them, and we do continue to work to serve them. That's one of the things that we really strive to do now in our current positions, and also want to continue doing. Stephen often says that we're the team that's going to get the job done starting on day one, because for us it's not going to be day one. It's going to be a continuation of a lot of the policies and a lot of the hard work and a lot of the determinations and relationships and policy implementations we have already started. We've been working for students for a year. We want to continue working for the students out there, all of them at Eastern.
And just to kind of end on a high note here, what do you guys like to do for fun?
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, I'm sure, our schedules tend to be pretty full, but I mean, anyone needs some leisure time. So at least my preference is to watch some Netflix, hang out with my friends, my fraternity brothers, my close friends that I work with in student government. Just general, to be a student, it's important to have that leisure time as well.
Same for me. I work as a private teacher, so I spend a lot of time mentoring students in my free time, and that's been a really rewarding and enriching experience. But when I'm not doing that, I spend a lot of time at home with my family, and also, as Stephen said, hanging out with friends, which sounds like a very typical college answer, that we watch TV and hang out with friends. But really, it's just appreciating the few moments that we do have to relax.
Well, I do want to say thank you guys so much for coming and joining us here today on Meet the Candidates.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
If you'd like on your screen. Thank you for watching. Be sure to cast your vote March 26th or 25th through the 26th. And don't forget to watch your favorite ETV programs on our YouTube channel, ETV at EMU. And check us out on our social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter. I'm Melina Fuentes. It's been a pleasure being your host today. And this has been Meet the Candidates.